Okay. Welcome. Good night, everybody. Welcome to Fatherhood Talks, your weekly dose of testosterone mixed with sensible thinking. Tonight, we hope that you are joining us. And I hope that if you are watching this on a replay, that you go back and say, wow, this is interesting tonight. I want to see more and look at some of our other videos that may be helpful to you, understanding fathers, helping fathers, or even introducing this information to fathers so they can have a place to kind of bounce their ideas off of. And I would like to say sometimes in a sensible way. I know that conversation is real because there's real men and real fathers who speak directly from our own personal experiences as fathers and as men, and it's important. So today's topic we have today is a nice one, and I know that when people seen they might have seen the pin nail, as they call it, the advertisement, and say, well, what is that? What's that about? What is the God is my dad? It's because the nice topic is, I am your dad, but God is your father. And we're gonna dissect that conversation. We're gonna look into it. I think that this talks very truly to what we must be and what kind of fathers we must be in reference to, what morals and how we define things for our children, and for our family overall. So good night, everybody. I'm Ron Osborne Williams. I have a daughter, and I'm going to let the rest of the panel introduce themselves, and then we're going to jump right into the conversation. Gentlemen?
Good evening. J. Robert Menard, father of 2 young adults.
Good evening. My name is Nana Lightborn. I am the father to a tribe of 7 and 1 granddaughter.
Hello, this is Elder Thomas Albury Jr., father of 2. They're grown, and I have 7 grandkids, 2 boys and 5 girls.
Good evening, and Larry Jordan, father of 2, boy and a girl, grandson, it's a boy.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Ed Tenney, and I have a total of 6, 3 biologicals, 3 steps, and 1 granddaughter who maybe has about another month to go in the hospital, but she's still going strong.
Travis Jones, 6 kids, 18 through 9. That's it.
John Alexander Ramirez, father of 2, a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old. Everybody else, I can't account.
Is that everybody? I think that might be everybody. Let me see. Lawrence, did you go? Yeah, I think Lawrence went then.
Yeah, I went.
All right, so I guess that's what we got. Hey, brother Lightborn, can you bring some light to this conversation? I'm going. I like to stay always in the wheelhouse that I know, and I'm going to turn it over to to you because this is a wheelhouse that I think you're a lot, expertise wise when it comes to the not just that aspect. And I know Elder Thomas is on here to also bring that stronger vision of that. So I'm gonna toss it over to you guys to kind of get us started in this conversation.
Okay, that's not a problem. That's the good thing about this particular conversation we have. One strengthens the other, and so just really being empowered by each other's strengths is just an honor for me. But the topic at hand, I am your dad, but God is your father. It's some advice I used to give my kids because I'm married, blended family. I have 4 biological and 3 inherited children. So with that, I was always searching for something of value. I mean, these are your children. And so I was always searching for something that will be what they call legacy information, right? If that makes any sense. So legacy information that would transfer from generation to generation, even greater than wealth. And sometimes information, not even sometimes, but most time, if not all the time, information, and we got to appreciate that information is greater than wealth. That's number one. Number two, I had to search, what would I say that will plant a seed in my children that will yield a forest for generations of lightborns to come, be it through my children and my inherited children. And so these words came up. God, I'm your dad, but God is your father. And the reason that came up because now I had to make sense out of taking them to church. And so most times when we do things with kids, our children rather, we don't really convey or teach them the science of why we do what we do. And so being that as it may, taking them to church, I had to really search the science of why do I take you guys to church? Is it just something to do? Maybe. Is it a good place to take you? Sure. But what's the greater science? And the greater science is acknowledging to them that there is something greater than you. There's something that's great enough to make me, you understand, to take whatever bad that I don't feel, because I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't feel qualified to be nobody's father, let nobody else's son. You understand? So when you coming in with a narrative that's saying, you know what, I didn't feel that I was the best son, and that translates over to your fatherhood, then how do you reconcile that disparity or that gap between you being a son and a father that you are now? So I had to search something greater and let them know that it is something greater that makes me the good man and father that I am to you guys, that not only that I leaned on, that makes me a successful father to you, that the fact that you even know me and can be loved by me and to understand the source of that love, that was the science. So I had to teach the science of, number one, why we go where we go and who we're serving when we go there. And so they had to understand that God is just not this mythical being. I had to let them know the matriculation, I mean, literally the meaning of why I sought God and how they benefited from the inheritance of me even seeking God, because it was God that made me the dad that I am. It was God that makes me the husband that I am. It's the God that made me, and I'm talking about literally the science and the teaching, because it's not just God, and again, in the hypothetical sense, but it's God in the scientific sense that made me not leave and made me present. You understand? And it's the reflection of his presence that gave me the presence in their life. And so that's the science of, for me, of I am your dad. And the advice I usually and continuously give them, even at adults age, me being their dad, but God being their father.
You know, when I was looking for, it's interesting, when I was looking for the actual photo for today's show, I seen a lot of very interesting ones. You know, some spoke to the idea that if you are, you know, I may be a father, but we both have another father. And different aspects of different things that I've seen. And I ended up picking this one today that said, God is my dad, and because I like the symbolism of the lock of the D's, and how that went down, and it is very, I think, very important for us to realize, regardless whatever our religious views are, and if we believe that God's a woman, and whatever we believe, right, that this moral compass that we have starts with us. And it's very hard for us to tell our kids to believe and focus into that when we're not modeling that, or we're not following that. You know, they had that old saying about, if you want 100% of the people in your house to go to church, or go to the mosque, or go to the synagogue, wherever you go, dad got to go. Because dad ain't let nobody stay in the house if he got to go there. But if mom go, you got 50%, maybe, you know, the people that's cool with mom will go, and everybody else won't go. And so it's that idea of leading a house. And if you are leading a house, your model, your representation really sets the tone for what your children and the family does. And sometimes we don't really think about that. We sometimes think people are individuals, they do their own thing. But yeah, I find a lot of times children are, especially now working back in the school setting, I see kids looking for, kids are looking for leaders. They're looking for models. They're looking for you as a man to say to them something is wrong. Say, he said, boy, I think a boy said something to class the other day, just to see if I would even respond to it. And and like, boy, well, most of you know that it's very unlikely that if you say something, I'm not going to respond to. He said something, I'm going to kill my girl, I'm going to kill her and the baby. And I think he was just carrying on. And I said, brother, you just saying that? Or you need me to come and talk? Or you want me to talk to you? And I said, you saying that, you joking, playing, but if you say it, it can become an action that you do. Because you say you're getting frustrated and mad, but that's not what you really want to do. And you won't find out you don't want to do it until you're standing in front of the judge thinking it wasn't nothing, and they're taking your life away. But you also have to deal with the life that you took away. It's one thing to lose your life, but it's not easy to think of the life that you took away in a moment of anger, or a moment of passion, or a moment of being confused. But I'm one of the people that there are monsters, but a lot of us are not monsters. We don't have any guidance to not become a monster. We like the Incredible Hulk. We don't have that thing to stop us. We don't have the gamma anti-gamma shot. We don't have that. So we just these people just turn into the smash and that. So I think this is really going to end into a conversation of looking at where we believe as fathers, what we believe, and how we follow what we believe, that then we can lead. And I think that's a big factor in today's conversation.
Okay, Ron, I'll go here. I want to say that his fathers are called to be priests. That's just my belief. That we're called to be priests in our household, where we if we say we believe in God, then we are to teach our children about God. And how do we do that? Not just by going to church, but also by having family worship.
Mm-hmm.
Taking that and doing that with your kids. And also, I can remember with my kids, when I used to take them to school, we would talk about different things, but we would have prayer before we go. And we'll talk when I pick them up again at the meeting. And like you said, Ron, about the father, this father has to lead out, and for the children and the mother to really lead out in because the first person they're going to see as a father, as God, as dear God is my dad, it should be the father telling them why he is and what he has done and and how we as the children, mother, the father can connect with him, because he's not only the children's dad, he's our dad, he's our father.
Mm.
Hey, Ron, but even scientifically, and I'm just going to say this, put myself on the line on this one, but no, I don't mind. My embarrassment, your empowerment. When we convey something like that, I'm talking about in the simplest terms. They have, when you talk about conveying it to a child, they have to understand that, and I'm a devout Christian. You understand? But I need to make that very clear. I'm a devout Christian. But being that Christian, I say the science of me being a devout Christian is my salvation, right? Protects, number one, me from my selfishness. It protects my wife from my selfishness. It protects my children from my selfishness. And it protects my community from my selfishness. And so, again, when you understand the science of why spirituality is the reconditioning. And so a lot of people say, oh, religion. I'm like, no, never religion, but scientifically reconditioning and reliving experience. And so a lot of times, if you're going to be a part of something, then you need to know that narrative emphatically. And for me, I'm like, oh, I know what I'm a part of. There's no coming against that. But at the same time, I need to be able to convey it scientifically to the youngest of understanding, because I think Albert Einstein said it best. If you can't convey who you are or what you're trying to say or what you're about to a 6-year-old, you probably don't know it yourself.
Absolutely.
You know, it's interesting, the topic, because a lot of times people view religion as a separate piece of a family, right? But it's actually, it encompasses the family in the sense that when you look at the Bible, right? The Bible is a set of instructions on how you should carry yourself. It knows that there's no such thing as perfect, right? And so in that understanding that you're not striving, and a lot of people think I'm striving to be perfect. You're not striving to be perfect. You're striving to be better than what you are, because there's no such thing as perfection. You can only become better, and because we're human, so we always have our flaws. We always have those issues that will always plague us, and it's how we handle those issues. And when you start looking at biblically how you handle issues, it's a template. There's a template for how you handle your marriage. There's a template for how you raise your children. And the beauty of that, when you start to interject whatever religion that you are into the household itself, and you truly start to understand how you model what you're being inspired by into the family, it also inspires those who are watching you to become more in that way. And so when you're looking at what it is that you're trying to become, and I use that term very loosely, what you're trying to become, as long as you're using your best judgment, you're following moralistic guidelines, you're doing what you have to do, it can only spill out in positivity into the rest. And so when you start to look at me as a father, right, and how you begin to interject religion into the household, and I'll tell you for myself, I had to learn that. It was a struggle, Because one thing is, I didn't put myself in a position to be a teacher of the word, right? So you tend to start looking at it as, I can't really teach you because I'm struggling. But my struggle is what teaches you. And so once you start to understand that, and you start to allow that to help guide you, you can always learn from someone else's testimony. And so you're a walking testimony of what's happening within your life. And once you start to understand that you're a walking testimony and people are watching you based on that, it then gives you a different perspective on how you do interact with your family, like Born was saying, and how you view your selfishness as something that allows other people to be protected by. Because once you start to say, you know what, I can't be selfish, I have to be giving, and you start to give of yourself, people are going to wonder or see the change. And when they see the change, they're going to wonder how it is. And once they start to wonder how it is and become more influenced by it, and also your kids, your family, you start to help them understand why is it important for you to give. Because one thing that Lightborn said, which holds true, is if you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, you're never going to be able to explain it to anybody else. So I think that's one of the things that also, and I'm going to go a little time on a tangent, that's one of the things that for me, when you start to talk about religion, you tend to lose, because they don't simplify it to those who are not understanding of it. And so once you start to simplify it to its basic core, it's just a set of guidelines to say, hey, don't hit somebody. We tell kids don't hit each other all the time. Bible says the same thing. Don't hit, love your neighbor, love your friends. Treat other people as the way God treats you. And you start to implement those things. And those are just some key values that everyone should have moralistically. You see what I'm saying? And so once you start to say there's no separation of what I believe to the way I behave and what I can produce and give on to others, you then have a more cohesive understanding of where you are and what your purpose, or where your purpose can start to guide you. Make sense?
Gentlemen, if you would allow me to be a little bit long-winded here.
Hey, Eddie, don't worry about that. I think that the one thing we know that this group is, you got good lungs.
So I was so insecure about being a good father, or a godly man in front of my children, that I made sure I studied the Word of God to make sure that I could work on myself as best I could. So when it came to my boys, I wanted them to be godly men, so much so that I just really studied the men in the Bible, and studied their interactions, their faults, their mistakes, their positives, their negatives, and all this other kind of stuff. And when I came to the point where Jesus got separated from his mom and dad, I think they were going for Passover, or returning from Passover, and they got separated. And they were looking for him and couldn't find him. He was about 12 years old. And they found him in the temple talking with the elders. And that kind of inspired me, because the elders were astounded at some of the responses that they were questioning him on. And that inspired me so much so that I did a study of what Jewish men did with their boys. And this is how they came up with the bat mitzvah, the bar mitzvah. They studied the Torah and did all these things to show themselves worthy of being men And they did all this, and I think it was by the time they were 13 that they had this celebration. So it dawned on me because I was so insecure, mainly because my dad was there, but there was no dialogue from him. I didn't really know what it was to be a man or how to be a man. Um, so uh, I was just insecure with that. I decided that I would do a man class with my boys. And it started when they were 12 years old. And I used the 10 Commandments as a base to um, teach them about what it meant to be a godly man. That they were both saved at an early age. I think they were both saved around 8, 9 years old. So they knew the Lord by the time we started man class. But as I try to make this long story short, um, went through the 10 Commandments. And I chose the 10 Commandments because that's part of the Torah that the Israeli men, the Jewish men, would teach their kids. And I learned that the first 4 commandments is the man's relationship to God. The next 6 is man's relationship to man. And it was a great avenue of discussion opener as I taught my boys what it meant to be a godly man, not a man like me, but just be a God man for themselves, so they could know God, not because I knew Him, so that they could know Him for themselves. I wanted them to have their own relationship with God, not because of what his mom and dad did. And so it was the coolest thing doing these man classes with my boys. And we had a celebration when they turned 12, where I took them out for their birthday as a celebration of turning 12. And what that did for me, I was doing it for them, but it did more for me than it did anything else. Because as I discussed with them the 10 Commandments and we detailed each one of them, I learned more about what it meant to be a godly man just trying to have discussions with them about what I felt God was teaching through the 10 Commandments about how to be, in general, a godly person. So I said all that long story just to let you know that I applaud you fathers who it seems like most of you guys got it or had it. I was just so insecure that I just went into deep study of God's word, mainly because of my insecurities of what kind of dad I wanted to be for my boys. So I hope that they're both grown now. I hope and I pray that the time that we had during those man classes will be something that they will often reflect on, because they're both married now. They don't have any children yet, but they're both married now. But I hope those discussions that I, as a father, had with them about how to be a godly man, showing them that God is their father, that they will have more confidence and um, more surety when it comes time for them to have their own kids, that they'll be able to jump right in and be the uh, godfather, if you will, to those children for their own. And that's basically it.
Eddie, thank you for your vulnerability and and your authenticity and how you share that. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Because just so you know, I'm just as scared shitless as you are. and I think that's what, there's a quote that says, difficulty wakes up the genius. Right? And when we realize that there's cycles that need to be broken, that should be broken, and we know better and we should do better, but yet we still don't. That's the scary part, right? And stepping into that discomfort and moving into that is what you did, and you showed your kids the model of that. And thank you for saying that, because I thought I was the only one that was scared.
That's fantastic. You know, there's a quote in the Bible that, as far as what I had a men's ministry that we used to do at our church. We had retreats and things too, but also it says, it's something good, I think, to the fatherhood here. It says iron sharpens iron. That means one man is sharpening another man. You may have gone through a trial or situation, and you hear it from other fathers, and you go, oh, okay, you went through this. So tell me how you went through it, and what happened, and how you were able to handle it. Iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
And you know what? Another thing that it does, Elder Thomas, it normalizes it for each and every one of us. And that's so important, because we sometimes feel so individualized, and that we feel that we face these issues and factors only unique to us. We think that we're unique beings, and we forget how much we are similar and alike. And we face some of the same thing, maybe not the same way, but we face this thing. I can think back when I was working in Philadelphia, and I was like, man, this school district here, man, look at the things we got to deal with. And then I came to Broward County and worked in the school district, and I said, hey, these kids facing the same thing. It's just a different place. And they need a person, they need me as an educator to be that in both of these places. And it was the same thing. You might say, oh, it's so different, but those places were so similar. They're very similar school districts, land-wise, school-wise, so we just got to get out of our heads sometimes to believe that we can learn from the group. We follow the group, so why can't we just learn from the group?
I think our ego doesn't allow us to do that. Right? Our ego doesn't allow us to love and salute the divine in each of us. Right? We want to sit on our own and think that we forget that we're facing what other men have met, in a sense, right? And it's a competition. Unless you're willing to be vulnerable and be open, you can't have that iron sharpen you, and you can't offer any sharpening, because there's no humility in that. There's no love. There's no agape. There's no shared. There's no collectiveness in that. There's a me, and there's a me and team, right? It's a perspective that requires an outside perspective. It requires a God-centered approach, just from my perspective.
And I just also want to say quickly that when I was talking about at home when we're family, and it is family devotions that we have. We will have in the morning, 5-10 minutes, but it was age related too, to our kids would understand what was said and what was said during or read during a devotional, as well as reading the Bible. They also went to a Christian school that reinforces these things. And the most what we as fathers really have to do is really truly love our kids. Love our kids, no matter what. Sometimes they're gonna break you, sometimes they're gonna break your heart. They will do that. But we we have to love our kids.
You guys, I was sitting here thinking, because I have to give credit because I got to come full circle with this thing, or at least at 180. I was thinking about how God chose the man of God for me. I mean, literally, you be thinking like, we all talk about having mentors, and I think we do have more mentors. We all have mentors, but you would have to understand that if you're going to have a faith or a spiritual walk, then you should have a spiritual mentor. I think we lack in that. We can find excuses on why we have mentors in every other aspect of our life, but the most important aspect there is, and the reason that your faith life or your spiritual life or your religious life is very and scientifically important. And let's go to the science of it. The reason it's very scientifically important is because of this. You have 4 capacities of your being. This is 4 factual capacities. So when you hear me say factual, when I give you these answers, there's no debate. So you have 4 factual capacities of your being. You have the belief capacity, you have the behavior capacity, you have the bartering capacity or business, and then you have the belonging capacity. Those are the 4 capacities of your being. To prove that you have those 4 capacities of your being, then you have 4 institutions that actually caters to those 4 capacities of your being. Being it so, the science even speaks to the fact that if you want your behavior to change, right? And because business don't change unless the behavior change. Your belonging don't change unless the behavior change. And the only thing that supersedes behavior changing, guess which one it is? Please tell me. Belief. And so here it is. We strengthen our behaviors, right? We strengthen our business sense or our bartering, and we strengthen our belonging and what we belong to, but nobody's actually strengthening their belief. And if you think that simple or basic or civic education is the strengthen of your belief, I'm like, you're sadly mistaken. Your belief, because I've just read a situation where the guy from Bed Bath & Beyond jumped off a skyscraper last week. You understand? I'm like, now this is a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. So it tells me that nothing was wrong with his behaviors. Nothing was wrong with the way he did business or barter. You understand? And nothing was wrong with his belonging. But guess what got infiltrated? His belief. And so the foundations that he had, right? Be it his behaviors, probably did all the right things, never been locked up. His bartering made it all the way to the CEO of Bed Bath & Beyond. And his belonging probably belonged to the upper echelon of society. And he had one moment of belief or disbelief that made him jump to his death. And if you really believe that your psychology and your mental health is going to make it without the buy-in of belief, the science says that if the person, I'm talking about all the science, be it psychology, therapy, and medical science, all agree. If the patient or the person that's being treated, if their belief don't buy into the process, the treatment won't work. Do you understand? And so when we talk about the science, and I'm talking about the spiritual science, I'm talking about some real science. God was blessed enough to have this crazy Negro preacher out of Miami-Dade County named Bishop Curry, one of the most radical guys I ever met in my life. But he had to be I'm gonna be honest with you, he had to be the only person that can actually teach me the Bible, because I just can't get up on any type of teacher. And so when you see me convey the way I convey, I'm like, man, I believe what I believe. And you have to kill me not to believe it. And so one of the most dangerous things about being a Christian, and I think one of the most misrepresented things about being a Christian, is the most dangerous thing you could be in the world. Why? Because there's no such thing as killing in Jesus' name. That's a fact. You're more likely to be killed than do the killing. That's the danger in it. Until we convey that, you understand, in the science of it, because I'm like, whoa, this is everything but passive. And I can understand why you don't want to be a part of something that may cost your life as opposed to causing you to take a life. But I got something even greater for a revelation I'm going to share with you guys next, because y'all going to love this one.
Yeah, I know Bishop. God bless you, man. He blessed you with a great mentor.
You know, I'm going to comment on something
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ron, because I can't wait to give y'all that. But go ahead. I'm gonna just wait, because this one is gonna blow y'all mind as it pertains to fatherhood.
Okay, let me. I just want to comment on one of the things that you said about belief, because it's. I think that's just a fundamental. All right, so I'm gonna take, for example, your example, the executive, the CEO of Bed Bath & Beyond. I think the belief that he failed in his belief that he could be delivered through, right? Because the day before, I don't know if you guys read this part of it, but they had to shut down a lot of they were shutting down a lot of Bed Bath & Beyond, so it's going bankrupt. See, now his belief didn't allow him to feel like he could be carried through that moment of downtime, right? That moment of trials and tribulation. So it's interesting that you know, as you say, the most powerful one is the belief, because I don't know if I'm going to bring it to, like you said, the science piece of it, what they call the placebo effect. The placebo effect is when they give someone a medication, or what someone believes is a medication that can help them, but it's really, for instance, let's just say I'm giving you some sugar water, and I'm telling you, you know what, this sugar water, this is actually, you know, medication for your headache. If you take it, you won't have a headache anymore. Well, the person will take it, and because the belief in what I gave them is so strong, the headache goes away. And so when you start talking about placebo effects, what Lightborn is saying is 100%. For me, I'll back you up 100% on that, because the belief system is one of the strong. If you believe you can do it, it can be done. If you believe you cannot do it, you will never achieve it. Not even, for me, I don't even think by accident you'll achieve it, because you're so set on not being able to get to that goal that you're going to self-sabotage without even realizing you're doing it. So that belief system is one of the most powerful things within the human mind that can either make or break you as a person. Go ahead, Lightborn.
No, I want to get somebody else, because I'm going to save this one. This is a caveat. Y'all going to love this. But go ahead. Where's LJ?
Well, I'm really interesting, gentlemen. As I was sitting here and I was listening to everyone speak, it was actually, we're all speaking the same language. You know, the fact that the belief system, and our belief system has to be strong. If you don't believe something, believe in yourself or believe in whatever you're doing, you will not accomplish that. You know, I would even say that that is your fundamental nature and what leads you to actually all the success that you have. And that when you believe in yourself and what you think is correct, it does not matter what other people believe about you, you know, and that will ultimately lead to the success in your life. And so I definitely agree with you.
Lionel, and if we bring up, and Gene, you kind of touched on it, but you guys left, I think you left something on the table. And we're talking this story of this guy. You know what it was? He didn't have faith to when he got to where he got to. So when it got bad, he didn't have faith to realize he could come through. That belief is that it's going to be okay. You know, oh, it's a bad day for me. But we said, who was joking about this earlier? When he said, Eddie, it's good to see you. And we joked and said, well, it's better to be seen than to be viewed. And we sometimes don't take that so serious that it is. You know, this young, look at the young brother, thought he was getting away from crime, go to Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles. And he did. Over some necklaces. some foolishness necklaces. But also, someone said to him, "Hey man, you sure you want to?" He said, "Hey, I don't need security. I know how to maneuver this. I know how to maneuver out in these streets." This is not having faith that, no, you don't. The world is, listen, listen, if you had no chains on, guess what? Guess what will happen? Absolutely nothing. Because how can I rob you if you have nothing to rob? So this man definitely want to jump off the building from the Bed Bath & Beyond because he has zero faith in anything being any more successful, because I question a lot of times how we got there. Did we get there by faith? If we got there by faith, we can understand that if we lose it all, if it's all gone, and we sitting under the bridge with a little coin thing, we still got the faith that I'm alive today. I had it all, now I don't have nothing, but I still got my life. And guess what? I can get it all back again. That's the faith I have in what God I believe. And so I think that's men start believing too much in themselves, not in their God. And that's where the problem becomes. Because if you believe in a higher power, you believe that something else is helping you get to where you get to, you'll get there. But once we start thinking, it's by man alone, I created this, I'll tear it down, you're on the slippery slope, my brothers. You're on a slippery slope.
Ron, that message can preach, boy. that one can actually preach. That would have got you a nice offering.
And I like to touch up on that too, Ron. Like I agree with Ron. Like when we talk about this, God is our dad type thing, you know what I'm saying? It's so much in there because I was born Christian by faith. Like my mama was a Christian. We went to church and everything else. But honestly, I'm a non-denominator person because I was pretty much that 6-year-old kid who was in church all the time, not understanding what's going on and try to look, you know what I'm saying, other places myself to try to, figure out, you know what I'm saying, how this whole religious and belief thing works. Now, when it came to my kids and when I came to got older, my wife, she's a Seventh-day Adventist.
Oh.
You know, she is there. And trust me, she is hard down, Seventh-day Adventist. When my kids was younger, she'll take them to church and everything. Like, now me, I would be like, yeah, I go to work. You know what I'm saying? And make the money, but I never stopped her from anything she doing with the kids to help them with that. But when, I'm the dad, like you say, I'm the father, they look up to me to see what I, see like why dad ain't going and everything else. And I tell them that my belief in the higher power is that, you know what I'm saying? I still pray to the day. I make my kids pray. You know what I'm saying? I still instill to that now. Every time they, and trust me, my kids do it. Every time they eat anything, if nobody ain't saying that, I'm gonna say something. Y'all can't pray? You know what I'm saying? Y'all can't give it to the Lord? Or, then one child will say something and they all will say something. And I just tell them that, whatever your religion is or whatever you know what I'm saying, believe is, you know what I'm saying, make sure it's, from the heart. You know what I'm saying? Not from the head. Mm. You could think you believe it, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a hard down Christian, but you're not going to church on Sundays. It has to come from the heart and not the head. You can't, like you say, who said, one of y'all said, like, you trying to prove something to other people. You know what I'm saying? I never go to church because I don't want to. I feel like it's disrespecting the Lord if I'm in somebody's church about to pass out or fall asleep. I'm not that person. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But I try to teach that in my kids, like, like whatever your belief is, or whatever you please, make sure you stick to that, because you're gonna have hard times, trials and tribulations, and trust me, I fell into that too. Hard times, trials and tribulations all day. But if you have your faith in whatever you believe in, you have your faith and you know you're doing the right and the justice thing, it's just a milestone until you get where you need to be at. When you pray, you talking to the higher power. So whatever you praying for, you know what I'm saying, you talking to him. You got to make sure you know that he needs you to work too, as long as you can work too. You know, I hope I'm saying that right. I'm always saying something crazy. Oh, that's it.
You good, Travis. Thank you.
I was thinking, I think most of the time being being Christian, particularly being an African American Christian, you know, you face your you ridicule. That's the word I'm looking for, and it's okay because I'm open for it. It's a mandate, you know, but it makes me study. I had to find out. I'm not just talking about the mental or the sociological science, but then I had to find out the historical science, because the thing about it is this: when you run into whether they're non-believer or people who just don't subscribe to faith, or people the faith rather, or people who's diametrically opposite of faith, they tend to be very studied people. I'm gonna tell you that, which make me understand the scripture, "My people perish for the lack of knowledge," which is God talking about his own people. So I understand that scripture when I run into opposition, being, you know, a God-fearing man, or God-loving man, even better terminology. But then being an African-American God-fearing man, I had to research my lineage and search my lineage, the seat of power and the presence of God. And I think I shared this, one person I shared this on, he probably totally forgot about it, but I shared it with Elder Thomas probably a few years ago. And I told him, I said, you know what? I serve the God I believe in the God of Harriet, Frederick, and Martin. And I said, because when you're in a relationship with something, or a God that you really believe in, and you can't make the historical connection, how are you going to ever make the reality connection? And so when I understood the outcomes, because now we're talking real, tangible outcomes, in which three of them, Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, and Martin Luther King, have in common, is that one God. And just in case if you were racist, God used Frederick Douglass to become an educated slave. And if you were sexist, God used Harriet Tubman to become a gender liberated slave, you understand, or slave who liberated. And just in case you was classist, you understand, then he used Martin Luther King, you understand, to liberate, to lead the civil rights movement, which is for what you call economic equality. And so to see God on all those fronts, on the racist front in my history, in the gender front in my history, and on the classic front of my history, that's the reality, that's the real tangibility of really understanding these things. You got to put a demand on your learning, man. Literally, for yourself, not your teacher. I didn't learn from him. I learned enough from him so I can argue with him. And I can disagree with him, because you can't disagree with nobody you didn't learn from. But I'm gonna leave that right there. But I still got this thing I got to tell y'all. That's gonna come back to fatherhood.
I want to speak that exactly to that part that ancestress part that we sometimes neglect. Someone was saying, "Hey, you come up with what kind of nickname you gonna come up with?" You know, I have all these nicknames and aliases. And as I got a little, you know, as I begin to think about what people had sacrificed, fathers that I know that had sacrificed, especially these fathers that was in the movement, they sacrificed their lives for the family. So somebody said, "What's your name?" And I said, my name was hold on. Let me. I gotta. Look, I'm about to tell you the wrong thing. Let me don't do that. Let me tell you the right name. Because I mix it up sometimes because I ain't no expert at the name that I'm going by. But I use three civil rights deaths, and I think I said my name is. I had written this down on my love. Hold on. Let me get it right here. Let me get it right.
Just don't say Toby.
You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong.
Why would I want to be Toby now? Come on now. Why would I want to? No, it's not Toby. The name would not be Toby John Ramirez. No, it must be Jen. See, I have some names coming in here. That I changed my name to Mega Luther X. And somebody said, well, what that mean? What's Mega Luther X? and I explained to them it was Mega Athens, Martin Luther, and Malcolm X, because they were fathers and husbands whose lives was taken away because they was working for the movement. And I know that whenever I think that it might get too hard or it might get too funny or whatever, I think about the sacrifice that their lives have made for me to be able to still be a father, still to be here, and I can still live in some sense where hopefully I don't have to worry about, let me knock on this wood, that somebody shoot me down in some place, you know, and so you have to. I think that's a strong thing you were saying, Lana, about us doing, when we talk about being spiritual, thinking about God, one of the big things is being able to identify ancestors and really putting it in a place where people can understand the importance of these ancestors to where I'm doing the work that's happening today. And that it doesn't just start with me. It started with somebody before me. And then each of those people started because somebody was before them. But they all these men, and I'll tell you this, had the one thing, they let God lead their life. Regardless if they consider God Muhammad, Jesus, Jehovah, God led their life. And that's that's important for us to kind of always remember.
I think we tend to separate, and over time we tend to separate our belief systems versus our actions. And I'm gonna explain. We go through life and thinking, because you always hear this, opportunity knocks, you got to answer opportunity. But when you start to think about opportunity and you start to relate it to faith, opportunity is non-existent. Everything is faith-led, right? I have a belief system that God is going to endorse. When you start to label it opportunity, I believe you start to disassociate what it is that God is doing and putting into your life. Because you look at opportunity and say, well, it came about because of something, not someone, or not some spirituality being. And so what we have to remember is when we're talking about our faith, opportunity only becomes because we believe in the faith and we believe that something is going to happen that is meant for us. And whenever opportunity knocks, it's because it's meant for you. Whether it's, and I a lot of times people look at opportunity as something that's positive that happens. Sometimes opportunity is something that negative happens to you because it's there to build you up. It's not always there to look pretty in your face. It's there to teach you a lesson. And that opportunity and that lesson that's taught helps you to become stronger. So when the positive opportunity comes, not only do you appreciate it, and that's the thing, appreciation of what is being presented to you by your faith, not by society. And oftentimes we start to think society is what gives the opportunity. It's not that. It's faith that gives you the opportunity. And how you deliver on that faith and that promise that was given to you. is how you maneuver on in life.
Yeah. Listen, and how we celebrate that, and who we celebrate it from. You know, I mean, I'm very strong on this idea that everything happens for a reason, because it's meant to happen. I remember when I was in high school, and the guy above me, and I said, I can't wait to get to college with him. Couldn't wait, right? But I was really acting. I was messing up, but I knew I was gonna get to go to college with him. I was bad. I was being bad. He was in college. I got to see him. He was in the band. He came home and got killed, and that affected all the people, you know, all of us. But what it did is it also said, you taking a lot of stuff for granted. That was the message. That was the message to you to say, hey, you out here slipping and sliding. He did everything the right way. He was in college already, about to live his life. Came back one time, you out here in the streets doing foolishness. He just happened to be in wrong person, wrong time, wrong place. That was the message, and that made you make and then from there, you make the other move. I ain't do that on myself. That was the message sent from my higher power to tell me you moving wrong, brother. And here's the message that's gonna hurt you, because this your buddy in power that you was hoping to come and see and be with when you got down to that college. It's like you say, Gene, it's not, everything ain't great. They give you the messages for how you to move on. You know, sometimes we think that the blessings are only good. Sometimes the blessings ain't good. I just want to say sometimes the blessings is not good, you know, but it's still a blessing.
Okay, well, I'm gonna share this revelation with you guys. I got and been on this fatherhood journey. I mean, my son is 31 this year. He's 31? Yeah, he's 31. My oldest son is 31. But I've been on this fatherhood journey programmatically since 2000. And I was sitting in church one day. Well, boy, that learning thing will illuminate you, because you start to understand stuff that's beyond you. That's how you know it got to be a God, because I'm like, how come nobody never preached that? This very question that God asked me, I never heard nobody preach. And I'm going to ask y'all this question right here. And you done been to 1,000 of these services. Well, hopefully. I was in a Easter service. Can't get no more popular in church than Easter. So I'm in an Easter service, and I'm just sitting there. And to your point, Travis, I fell asleep in church a lot. So don't feel bad about it. I'm not embarrassed about falling asleep in church no more than I'm embarrassed about falling asleep in the club. But, so I don't want you to be embarrassed. I mean, you go there and you serve whatever purpose of why you went in the first place. But God asked this one question I couldn't see until, matter of fact, because I was a father and I was so in tune and just really loved this fatherhood mantle, God asked me this question. He said, Lionel, you done seen this, you done heard this sermon 100,000 times. He said, but I'm gonna show you something that you need to see as a father. He said, all these Easter services that you heard and all this crucifixion and all this stuff like that, the whole Pentecost thing, all that stuff like that, Pentecost is post-crucifixion. But he said in this whole crucifixion stuff, nobody ever thought to ask this one question. You ready for it? Where was Jesus' daddy? I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, that's true. Nobody, I mean, it's like, you know what? We treat Joseph in the Bible like they treat fathers in society. Boy, if I ain't saying nothing to know that.
I didn't hear that.
And I'm sitting there,
Yes.
what the hell?
Yes.
Excuse my language. But I'm like, I didn't see the connection. God said, nobody thought and I heard some of the best preachers. And nobody thought to ask the question like, where is Joseph? Nobody. I'm telling you, nobody. And I was so insulted by that. I'm like, Lord, I'm not insulted by you asking me that. I'm insulted by God because I done seen some of the best preachers in the world preach these sermons, and nobody asked that question as it pertained to fatherhood, which means they even denied their own manhood and overlook their own manhood to not even think the importance that this Jesus did have a father or a dad at one point that don't exist in the next chapter of his life, and nobody ever thought to ask what happened to him or where he went.
Dude,
And this is how go ahead.
Let me go there with you. Listen, Joseph was chosen by God himself to be Jesus' father. He was the master blender. Joseph was Jesus' stepdaddy, chosen by God to be a part of that blended family. And he allowed Joseph to be the man leader that he needed to be for Jesus all the way up until, I guess, he died or disappeared. That is the most, being in a blended family now, that is the most revelatory thing that is so gratifying that I get to be a part of this blended family and be chosen to be a part of these kids' lives. And the fact that God himself chose Joseph to be Jesus' dad is just, yeah, that's rarely talked about. Rarely talked about. But that's the blended family right there. Imagine God choosing you to be the father of Jesus Christ. Imagine that.
That's something deep. But that Lionel, you even bring either that deeper spot because even you begin to say, what happened to Joseph? Did he pass away? We ain't know about it. They left that out of where did that occur? Because when you think about what Eddie said, he was selected to take on that role in that mantle. And if he took it on, if he said, just like many of us as stepdads who said, hey, I'm going to love you, I'm going to love these kids, and I'm going to be the father of this house. You don't disappear. So and sometimes I feel that these are the kind of things that add into what we're talking about, the missingness of fathers. Because you would figure that Joseph would have been right there to console Mary when Jesus was on the cross. He would have been the one to organize everybody, say, come on, let's go down here. They got my son. I can't take this. And Mary would have been trying to hold him back. So it's strange. But it lends itself to some of what we begin to losing some of our greatness because of some of our absence. And we have to think about how we lose so much of our greatness because we're absent.
And you know what? God is not going to leave you without an answer. And I'm like, man, you ain't going to ask me no question and not give me no answer. And it was right there in the word. And it's so right there because when I thought about it the day of Jesus' crucifixion, and I think I heard my pastor, or another pastor, but I think it was my pastor who said that the reason the sun stopped shining is because two suns couldn't shine at the same time. Right? Great revelation. And so what God did, we said, I'm gonna answer you the same question. He said if two sons can't shine at the same time, two fathers can't either. And that's the difference.
Wow.
I'm like, well, that makes sense. One thing about it, God would not leave you without an answer. I'm like, okay, I got it. Just say no more.
That's deep there. That's deep.
And that way, that was it. But that also would make good sense because if you cry out to my father, and Joseph is there, who are you really crying out to?
Well, Joseph got that signal when he was 12 years old. And his parents asked him the question, hey, where you been? We've been looking out for you. We thought you was with us in the caravan. And Jesus simply said, hey, didn't you know I'd be about my father's business? He wasn't talking about Joseph. So I think biblically it's elegant how Joseph kind of, they didn't mention his death, they didn't mention how he died. All of a sudden he just kind of went away. But Joseph will always be Jesus' dad up until I believe Jesus started rising in prominence in his ministry and stuff like that. Joseph had no place in that, and so I believe God eloquently kind of allowed Joseph to kind of pass not into oblivion, but just kind of be, set aside, because now Jesus had to be about his father's business because he did the will of his father. And every time he mentioned his father, it had to be God the Father that was glorified, and not Joseph, the earthly father, that was glorified.
I like that you said that, Ed, because you bring up another point. Imagine how Joseph felt when Jesus said, I'll be about my father's business. And being a stepfather, that is the most detrimental, scariest thing, because one day it may come. Not saying it didn't, but as a stepfather myself, I understood that, there's a possibility that my stepkids may say, like, you're not my daddy. Not saying that's what Jesus said, but even Joseph, knowing the situation between him and God and his son, or their son, he understood that there's a possibility that Jesus may not acknowledge me or supersede God the Father over me being his father. And guess what? Even that will make you feel some type of way, because and not saying that I'm like, because you can't compete with God, but it still won't take away from the hurt of being rejected as a father, and potentially a good father or the best father that you're trying to be to a child.
I think what happens with that is just the ego. For me, I believe it's an ego thing. As a step parent, you're always going to look, like you said, to that day that the child goes, you're not my father. But what you're looking at is the reward that comes back when they actually come back and said, thank you for all that you did.
Mm-hmm.
Because you didn't have to do it because you're not my father. You did it because you loved me. And I think that once you remove the ego out of it, to say, because there's a natural pull. And I think we had this discussion before. There's a natural pull between kids and their biological parents. No matter what you do, you can't replace it. You can step into the moment and be there, but you'll never replace that natural pull that they have. And so you have to be able to set aside the ego and say, you know what, while I'm here, I'm gonna do what I do. And definitely when kids grow up, they're gonna appreciate it more. I think, this is my opinion, they'll appreciate it more because of the sense of feeling you didn't have to be there, but you wanted to be there. And I think when you parallel that with Joseph, and I think that's the one thing, is that he didn't have to be there. Yes, God appointed him there, but there are many people that refused. You see what I'm saying? They're given purpose. And so one thing is that him stepping up, and I think he was able to remove the ego because of the fact of where he knew his purpose and place was, that he could eventually be set aside. And I think he, and asking that question, I started looking up, and it says that he was there. It's just he was not highlighted. And so that's the thing. And it goes back to what Brother Eddie was saying, is that he wasn't highlighted because it wasn't about him. It was about Jesus and what his message was and what his biological father wanted to happen. And like you said, Lightborn, he was about that business.
I just want to say that the Bible is silent on what exactly happened with Joseph, and sometimes you can't really speculate on it. But I think about when Jesus was on the cross and he looked down and he saw his mother and he saw the disciple that he loved, John. He said, "Woman, he's your, I mean, this is your," no, he said, "John, she's going to be your mother." And said, "Mother, John is going to be your son." So, you know, when you really think about it, there's no, I personally, this is only me saying it, I think Joseph had passed away at that time, because had he not, why wasn't he there? And why did Jesus say that on the cross?
Hey, listen, listen. Listen, that's okay. Listen,
Look, I want to say, I just want to say it like this, because I'm listening and I just came to a realization that Joseph was a great father, stepfather, how you want to say, because my mom and my stepdad always used to tell me, a person who's doing their job, you'll never hear about. You know what I'm saying? A person who's doing their job, you'll never hear about. Why? Because they doing their job how they should do. Like Joseph raised, like you said, God put Joseph in that place to raise this man. And I felt like if he was doing something wrong or whatever, or he's the actual version of being to me, he just inspired me to a person to be in the type of father I need to be. You know what I'm saying? Because you ain't hear much about Joseph. You ain't hear, like you say, you ain't hear nothing. Jesus had to do God's work. Joseph raised him up, made sure he was right, and sent him on his way.
No, he knew.
And like you said, when he died on that cross, he told his wife, "This is your son. You should be proud for what he did for the people." You know what I'm saying? And I that opened my mind up real. That opened my eyes up real. Cause I mean, we always, or at least me, I always wanted to be recognized because of the stuff I went through. But if I know I'm doing my job, I wouldn't have to hear about it. Only from the child, and say that you was there for me. And I get that. I guess I see that. I see that now. That's all I wanted to say. That was it.
Oh, Ron, I got one more revelation too. I'm gonna just play with this.
boy.
I got one more revelation for you, Ron. Ain't no use of me sitting on this stuff. I might well share it with somebody. Okay, so now this is for the fathers who this is for our notorious fathers, right? I'm talking about who may feel like, you know what, I haven't been the perfect father or the status quo father. I don't think I may have been the best role model. I don't think I may have been the best example to my children, but I was there for my children. Okay, there's another father in the Bible, and you're gonna love this one. There's another father in the Bible who was he was a bad man. Honestly, he was a terrible man, but a good father. This is what I love about God. Terrible man, but good father, right? Listen to me. Terrible man, but good father. And I'm gonna put this together because I just 26 years in the church, I'm just finding this out probably the 21st year of the 26th year. And I'm like, damn, I didn't see that. So here it is, the first terrible man in the Bible. We all know who that is. The first terrible man in the Bible is who? Cain. Now here's the connection. We all know Cain murdered his brother. Cain be no more terrible than that. So Cain has a son. What I never knew about who his son, I'm like, wait a minute. And this is what I love about being a father. Let me show you the power of fatherhood. This is the power of fatherhood. Here it is, this terrible man, right? By somehow being a terrible man, he becomes a father. And even being a good, ended up being a good father, so much so that he raised a great son. And the son was so great that God didn't let him see death. He took it. I didn't know Enoch was Cain's son. I'm like, what the?
Yes,
I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
yes,
Enoch is Cain's son. I'm like, Enoch is Cain's son? So big. I'm like, this is what you got to study. I'm like, man, this is getting interesting. And so when we're talking about the Bible, like the Bible is extremely exciting when you know it. And I'm like, give me a tip. I've been sitting in all these churches all the time and nobody made that connection. I'm like, wait a minute. Enoch is Cain's son? And I'm saying, wait a minute, this is a terrible man, but he ended up being a good father to create a great son. And so much so that God didn't allow his son to see death and took him. And so there's a school for thought for me because I'm like, God, what's up with that? Well, God said, well, he took my best, so I took his. There you go. I just wouldn't want to leave you out there like that. And I'm like, wow, God, you got questions and answers. You did something else. But I love it. So what I'm saying is the information is the greatest inheritance that you're going to leave your children. Make sure your information is sound in every aspect of your life, be it business, be it belonging, which means your culture, be it your heritage. Make sure all the information you leave your children and the lineage of your children is top notch. Don't neglect them on the faith front. Don't neglect them on the family front. Don't neglect them on the financial front, and don't neglect them on the friend front or the social front. Let them know every piece of information you're giving them and you're leaving them is valuable. And that's going to be the greatest inheritance you can leave your children. That's all I'm going to say for tonight.
And listen, I think that's all we need we can use that to wrap us up for the night, Lionel, because I think you're saying that takes us to a place to really think about this idea of how fatherhood can, what I've always said is that becoming a father changes who you are. And just because you're not the person people want you to be, don't mean that you can't be a good father. And I think that is and I think that's powerful for a lot of dads out here who struggle with this idea of, I don't want to be around the kid. I don't want kids to be around me because I might not be a good model for them. I might not. But you'll be surprised what you do different. Just that you even thinking that. Just that you even thinking that already means that you're on the right path to being the right kind of father, because you are mindful that you don't want your kids to be exposed to certain things. You don't want them to see and model certain things. So you guess what you're going to do when you're with them? You ain't going to do it. That's the change that children can make. The old lady might not can change it. Your wife might not can change it, but them kids can change it because you know that they're looking at you as the leader and what needs to happen. So again, I think I want to thank everybody tonight. I mean, this might have been one of those sessions where we had, we should, reach up and remember that faith is important. And one thing I think that rhymes with faith is fatherhood. And to be a father, you must be faithful. Faithful to your Lord, to your God, faithful to yourself, and faithful to your family. So, and those words, those F's coming in there easily. The other F word come in there, the one how you get to be a father. But that doesn't have as much power as the faith, the father, the family part that you really should be, that you need to be focusing on. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. If you're watching this again, I'm going to ask you to like, share, subscribe. Join us again next week, next Tuesday at 7:00 for Fatherhood Talks. And fathers, if you want to have a little bit more intimacy of this conversation and really get some of that iron sharpening iron, as Elder Thomas talked about, kind of get some of this faith in friends that can join you and kind of help you on your walk of fatherhood. Join us tomorrow night, right here. Look right in the chat. Look right in the caption. They give you the Zoom link to where we're at, what we'll be doing, and you can join us tomorrow night. Other than that, fathers, I want to say thank you and repeat after me. I am.
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 I am a man of honor.
I am a man of honor.
I am.
I
I
am.
am.
I am.
I
I
am.
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 I am a man of courage.
I'm a
I
man of courage.
I said, I am
I am
I am
I am a man of
respect.
I'm a
I
man
am a man of respect.
Yeah, maybe I'm just saying to you guys, listen, I said that Father, I am.
I am.
I say that you are.
You are.
you are.
Say that we are.
We are.
We are.
Championship
Fathers.
fathers.
Yeah.
Thank you again, and join us again next week or tomorrow night. Good night.
Good night.
Good night,
God
gentlemen.
Good night.